Just so you know, I probably won't take the full 15. It'll probably be about 10, but I appreciate you're all honoring, what's on the website and what's presented in your visitor sheets. Thank you. Mr. Odom, board members, my name is Lisa Moore, and I'm going to have to lower this. My husband and I have lived here in Murfreesboro for over 30 years. We've raised two sons. We have a son that's 21 years old at MTSU, and we have a 12-year-old who's in the 6th grade at one of our middle schools here in Murfreesboro, or Rutherford County. I've had a child in the city or county school system here for over 17 years now. I've been an involved parent. I've served on leadership PTOs of several schools, as well as spent several years on the ESP Parent Advisory Board with the city school system. So just give you that little background to let you know that I am concerned about children's education, and that's why I'm here. I am here tonight actually to express a serious concern, a concern that's regarding one of our school system's books. I see a lot of you have brought a copy of it tonight. It's the 6th grade world history book that's currently being used in our middle schools. I'm specifically concerned about the content that's in that book regarding Islam. I will tell you, after I reviewed the textbook, when my son brought it home, I was stunned. I was stunned not just about the sheer size of the content that was devoted to the subject of Islam, but at all of the inaccuracies, the untruths that it contained, as well as how much of the pertinent history of that religion and political system that seemed to be conveniently left out. So after my review, we asked, actually our group did, representing PTEs, Parents for Truth and Education this evening. After my review, we asked one of the country's foremost experts on the subject of Islam to review that textbook section for us, or all of the sections on religion. He did so, and as you know, I think we emailed a copy of that to all of you. It's been probably about a couple of months ago. And we've had several of our group's members reach out to a couple of you, and unfortunately it doesn't seem like we got any kind of a serious response. So quite frankly, I feel like it wasn't taken seriously, and that's why I'm here tonight to present our concerns. I'm going to share a little more personal history with you, and this isn't pertinent. It's not, I normally wouldn't do it in a public setting, but I think it's pertinent to this conversation. I want to share with all of you that I'm Jewish, and I'm also a Christian. And some people struggle with that, so I'll put it real simply. I'm a Jew by birth and by heritage and by the grace of God. And I'm a Jew who's figured out that her Messiah has already gotten here. By the way, my Messiah and my God are not named Muhammad and Allah. I normally wouldn't share that information, but I do it tonight because I know that after I'm finished this evening, there will probably be some people that are going to want to call me names, like Islamophobe, bigot, racist. That's okay. My parents taught me a long time ago to stand up for what you believe in. And if you're subjected to discrimination for what you believe in, you hold your head up, you move on, and you ignore it. If you ask anyone who knows me, I think they'll tell you that I'm the last person that they would ever think of that they would call bigoted or prejudiced. So I just kind of want to state that for the record. I am passionate about people's rights to their own beliefs, as long as they don't harm others. And having been the subject of discrimination myself, growing up as a Jew in a little small East Tennessee town, the last thing I would do is discriminate against someone just because they had a different heritage or a different set of religious beliefs than me. I want to read you a couple of excerpts from Dr. Warner's summary about this textbook. Islam, in this textbook, rises to a half-truth at best. The text is more like propaganda than critical thought applied to history. The missing pieces are massive in scope. The suffering that was caused at the hands of Islam by slavery, jihad, dhimitude, and Sharia has annihilated civilizations in Egypt, North Africa, Lebanon, Syria, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iraq, and Turkey. Jihad has murdered over 200 million people in the name of their religion. But no hint of this is mentioned anywhere in all this big section of Islam in our school's textbook. So when you add that to what I would consider to be, and others and our experts do as well, the artificial dominance of space that's devoted to Islam in that book, at the cost of Christianity and Judaism and all the other major world religions, the bias and bigotry are self-evident, and I think it's a disgrace. Now, enough about the textbook. I didn't think it could get any worse than that, actually, until I reviewed the class handouts and tests that were actually used in my son's class by his social studies teacher during the week of world religion studies, which, by the way, consisted of 2 days of teaching about Islam, 1.5 days about Christianity and Judaism, and 1 day about the other religions. Now, I want to be clear and I want to be on the record that I don't blame his teacher for this in any way. I'm sure she's simply teaching and handing out what she's been told she has to do. She's a fine young lady and she's a good teacher. And I have a copy of these handouts that I'm going to provide for you all. I assume I give them to Joyce or? Okay. I think I've got enough for all the board members, but if I don't, I assume y'all can make more copies. These are the handouts that were used during the week of world religion study in my son's 6th grade class. There's a total of 8 pages of handouts. 5 of them are about Islam and Muhammad. 2 of them are about Christianity, and 1 of them is about Judaism. And here are some of the statistics I pulled from these handouts. Will that work? I like to do word searches. I did these myself, going through. The word Islam or Muslim is mentioned in these 8 handouts 25 times. The word Christianity or Christian is mentioned 9 times. The name Muhammad is mentioned 31 times. The name Jesus, 4 times. Now, I'd like to point out that some of these handouts, and let's look specifically at the one where my son had to do an exercise where he had to cut out and paste and then identify the 5 pillars of Islam. Now, here's my problem, or one of my problems with that. This is not history. It's doctrine. So one of my questions to you as the board members is, when did it become okay to teach Islamic doctrine in our classrooms? These handouts reference Noah, Abraham, Moses, and Jesus as Islamic prophets. As the kids are so prone to say these days, seriously? Muhammad wasn't alive, and Islam had not been founded when these prophets were around. And personally, I take serious offense that these names are even being mentioned along with the name Muhammad. There is a 2-page handout, and I believe in the order that I sorted these, you will find it 3 pages back. It's titled The Story of the Life of Muhammad. The Story of Muhammad, excuse me. It paints Muhammad's life as one of a thinker and a hero and a leader, but it very conveniently leaves out a lot of facts about Muhammad. It states in this handout that he had united the tribes of Arabia into a single group. And I'd like to tell you what some of the real history was about that. When Muhammad went to Medina, the town was half Jewish. 2 years later, every single Jew in Medina had been exiled, sold into slavery, or murdered. After he cleansed Mecca of the Jews, he attacked the Jews of Khaybar and subjugated them and made them semi-slaves or dhimmis. After he conquered every Arab tribe in Arabia, he turned to the north, Syria, and attacked the Christians. The Christians that survived were made dhimmis or semi-slaves, and he also owned Christian sex slaves. Muhammad enslaved men, women, and children, and he sold them to raise money for jihad. Anyway, I've got a number of other things about Muhammad, but enough said. The fact that we have this story of his life, which does not depict the truth in history, in another section where the 6th graders had to actually answer questions about him, I sure didn't see one of these exercises in here about Jesus. But again, we took religion out of our schools a long time ago. And that's okay. It's my responsibility as a parent to teach my children about our beliefs. And I'm okay with that. But don't bring other doctrines and other religions into our school system and try to teach my son about something that we don't believe, especially when the facts aren't correct. You know, I realize that people like to defend violent behavior in the name of religion because a lot of people will say, well, gee, bad things have been done by all religions. Well, yeah, they have. But I think it behooves us to note that there's only one religion these days that I know of that slaughters people, tortures them, jails them, kills them in the name of their religion and their God. And their laws and instructions are to live their lives like Muhammad. Last time I checked, we don't see Christians or Jews or Buddhists running around hijacking planes and flying them into buildings, killing thousands of people in the name of their gods, or infiltrating their country's military and opening fire on a room full of their fellow soldiers in the name of that God, or keeping people in their countries from freely practicing their religions. So, my point being, if we're going to tell the truth in our textbooks, then we tell the truth. But I refuse to allow my child to be taught Islamic doctrine and lies about history in our public school system, period. I am fine with your teaching my child about world religions as long as you're teaching them real and accurate history, not doctrine, and not in a slanted and unbalanced manner that this textbook and classroom materials were all of that in extreme excess. Again, we took that out of our classrooms, so now we're allowing what I would consider to be, or what I consider a false god, and his doctrine to be brought into our classrooms. Board members, and please understand, Mr. Odom, I understand that none of you picked this textbook. It's been here. And I would imagine, guessing, that you may not have even known about the curriculum and the studies and the amount of time that was being devoted in the sixth grade classroom to this. But now you do. So, to really sum all this up, I could use two words, actually. I'd call it Islamic indoctrination. And we're sitting back, not just as a community, but as a country, and allowing it to happen. And board members, we need your help. We need you to take a stand. Mr. Odom, board members, I'm going to finish up here. I'm going to wrap this up by asking you a couple of questions. And I really would like to have a direct answer on these. Whether you give me that answer tonight or you do so in a follow-up communication, I'm fine. But here are my questions. I think the first one's pretty easy. Do you believe that our children should be taught the truth in their history books? My second question. In your role as the director of schools or our elected school board members, do you agree that you have a responsibility for ensuring that what is being taught in our Rutherford County classrooms is truthful, accurate, and appropriate? And if so, do you possess the courage to speak out against what's wrong? After you've had time to digest this and discuss what I brought before you tonight, I would request that you provide me and our group and other members of this community a specific action plan to address these issues and a timeline for which you intend to do so. So with that, I am done. I think I stayed under my time. Gentlemen, Ms. Blankenship, thank you.